How do we know when it's CIA? Well, here are some clear markers of what it looks like when it's the CIA doing a coup. Okay. One, they have like a clear person that they are going to put in a position of power. Okay. They have a person that they already have, oftentimes from the Chamber of Commerce. Okay. Or like a big business owner who's like a right-wing freak, right? That they already have in their mind that they will put into the position of power. The international Western communities and Western leadership, especially the United States of America, will very quickly recognize the new government as legitimate. Okay, that's another one. And then the new leadership will say things like, we are reaffirming our commitment to Israel. That's one. Or we are privatizing our extraction industries. That's another big one, even bigger than the Israel thing. And yeah, that's usually those two. If you hear some random Latin American country go, we want to privatize our national resources and our extraction industries, and also we are committed to beefing up our relationship from Israel. And there's another third one. You're right. We're going to decouple from China. You know, that's usually the makings of a American-backed move right there. Okay. Another marker is they're anti-corruption, but that's like the Democratic version of this. But basically, none of those things happened. It happened so fucking fast. It happened so goddamn fast that like none of those things even happened. Like the only thing that this like supposedly rogue general wanted to do was that he was mad that Evo might run again, and that's unconstitutional. I feel like that was like a weird ass reason to try and do a whole ass coup, and then they very quickly packed it up. Watch the Democracy Now! Coverage fool. Failed coup in Bolivia. Army chief arrested after leading troops attack on government palace. I'm not saying it's definitely not the CIA. I'm simply stating that, you know, this was weak. This was weak nuts for the CIA. Like, this was worse than like the fucking Venezuelan dudes that got packed up by fishermen. Or even the Congo one, I don't think was like CIA. This might be like a local homegrown version, you know? Or maybe even something is just suspicious. That's all I'm saying. Something doesn't pass my smell test. I can't put my finger on it. That's all I'm saying, okay?
To overthrow Bolivia's democratically elected government has been stopped. And the former army chief behind the failed coup d'etat.
But yeah, one of the biggest reasons why I said that is because like the actual fucking CIA-backed coup d'etat people from the prior coup literally were denouncing this coup immediately.
Was arrested in La Paz after a dramatic confrontation with a Bolivian president inside a government palace. President Luis Arce reportedly told Juan Jose Zuniga, "I am your captain and I will not allow this insubordination." Zuniga was later shown handcuffed on national TV before being forced into a police vehicle. This all comes a day after he was relieved of his duties. Earlier, armoured vehicles were seen ramming the doors of the palace as armed troops surrounded government buildings. But the soldiers withdrew after the newly appointed army chief ordered them back to their units. President Arce had called on the public to mobilise in defence of democracy.
So did Evo, by the way. Not every coup is a CIA plot. There are still internal bourgeois interests that have their own interests. Those are interests usually aligned with the CIA operations, but not always. This was just reactionary. Yeah, I think this was more reactionary than it was like a CIA op.
The Attorney General's office is now vowing to impose the maximum punishment on the perpetrators of the attempted coup. CNN's Stefano Pozzebon has a closer look now at how it all unfolded.
In the end, the attempted coup was defused in a matter of hours, but only after army units took control of the city center of La Paz and military vehicles quite literally rammed the doors of the presidential palace.
Yeah. The split in Bolivia's left has reached catastrophic proportions, with the MAS party accusing President Luis Arce of staging yesterday's coup. The National Committee of MAS, currently controlled by supporters of Evo Morales, made the claim today in a press conference. Now, red is like, I'll be honest, red is Russian government ops. if I'm not mistaken. So I don't know what their position is on this matter. It could be either they're pro Evo or they're pro Arce. I can't really tell. Morales and Arce are currently locked in a faction fight over who controls the party. Morales and Arce are currently locked in a faction fight over who controls the party and who can be presidential candidate next year. Luis Arce supporters have a parallel national committee of the party. However, the electoral court still legally recognizes Evo Morales as one. Arce and Morales have been publicly fighting over the party. Yeah, no, this is the other dynamic here. But yeah, ultimately in Bolivia, an attempted military coup against President Luis Arce was quickly thwarted soon after it began Wednesday night. Arce, part of the left-wing movement for socialism, the MAS party, has already named a replacement for the coup's leader, General Juan Jose Zuniga, who called for democracy during the attempt. See, now that is a marker for CIA, okay? Let me tell you, that's a CIA momentum right there. That usually is like, oh yeah, we're doing this for democracy. We are violently attempting to overthrow the current democratically elected government that is popular for democracy. Is, you know, exactly what you hear usually. I love doing a military coup for democracy. Anyway. Arce was elected in 2020 after the third re-election of Bolivia's previous president, Evo Morales, one of the founders of MAS, for an unconstitutional fourth term was overturned by pressure from the military and the police. Although Bolivia is a fragile democracy, there is a very little popular support for the military, while popular civilian support remains with Morales and MAS. And that is what the convo was about on Democracy Now! Okay, let's see. But let's watch this first.
They made a firm response from the sitting president, Luis Arce, telling rebel General Juan Jose Zuniga to stand down.
Ryan Grimm having to argue that with people saying Latin America doesn't need the CIA to coup itself. What? Of course, is morons virtue signaling about it. Well, I've blocked this person and I like Ryan, so I suspect that this person is wrong. Stop doing coups in Bolivia. It's not happening for you. Meanwhile, Bolivia under MAS has had basically the fastest reduction in poverty anywhere. Deal with it. Where did I say it was done by the U.S.? Nowhere. I don't think it was, and I don't think so in real time. Get a grip. Oh, come on. The implication is pretty obvious. Stop doing coups in Bolivia. Who are you talking to here, Ryan? You're just engagement farming. It's so disgusting. You used to be so reputable, man. Who's the one making assumptions? I said stop doing coups in Bolivia, and you automatically assume I'm referring to the United States. Who's the myopic gringo? Not every tweet is about the United States. I am well aware the Bolivian military has agency. I outed the former defense minister in 2020 as trying to organize a coup, and that reporting got him indicted. So you're talking to the wrong person. You're an idiot. Yeah, that is pretty funny. He went, stop doing coups, and this guy immediately went, oh, he means America. Yeah, there's internal struggle. There's infighting inside of MAS, so that could be part of the reason. You know what I mean? The president looks like he's defending Evo Morales. The coup guys are doing this coup. The military tries to do this coup, specifically targeting Evo Morales, which, by the way, I don't think that these guys mentioned on CNN, but they said we do not want Evo Morales to run for re-election. Okay, that is an insane thing. Like, maybe do the coup after, dog. What do you mean? They're like, no, we're gonna do a coup now because we're worried that he might run for re-election. That's a crazy thing to try and do a coup over. Okay. Anyway,
it fills us with bravery and courage to keep on resisting any coup attempt, because Bolivia deserves its democracy, which has been won in the streets and with blood, brothers and sisters. Zuniga, who had been the head of the Bolivian army since 2022, was detained shortly after and is now under criminal investigation. It appears Zuniga decided to move against the state after his dismissal on Tuesday. He was fired for threatening former President Evo Morales from running for re-election. We are the armed wing of the people, the armed wing of the fatherland. A worrying sign of how Latin American militaries may have become more comfortable taking bolder actions.
The armed forces have gained more and more involvement. They have more of a say in public affairs.
Yeah, but they don't have enough popular support. Like enough popular support from even the right, especially for this. Usually you got to have some fucking civilians that are on board. Okay? You can't just be like, yeah, we're doing it just with the military. Because if you try to do it just with the military and not enough civilian support, then the civilians are going to come out and be like, yeah, fuck no, dude, we're fighting against you. And in which case, it's entirely dependent on how much America wants that country to be a dictatorship led by like a fascist dictator like Pinochet that will implement neoliberalism in the country, or you know, whether or not they have enough popular support. And if they don't, like in Venezuela, it failed with Chavez. Zuniga also apparently claimed Arce orchestrated the coup, which is another oddity. Oof.
And frankly, this has emboldened the military in thinking that maybe, you know, civilians absolutely need them. And it generates this sense among the population that civilians may be unable to solve policy problems, that they really need the militaries to step in.
In the meantime, Arce had immediately appointed a new army chief, and by sunset, there were no more soldiers in the city center of La Paz. Only regular citizens on the street defending democracy. Stefano Pozzebon, CNN.
Yeah, they immediately did a popular mobilization of the citizens, like, and Evo Morales was pushing for it, Arce was pushing for it inside of Bolivia. So,
Bogotá.
We want to bring in CNN's Julia Vargas Jones now, live from Los Angeles for us, and you've been following all of the developments. Now, political turmoil, of course, not new for Bolivia, but these events really did break new ground. What more are you learning about exactly how and why these events unfolded?
Well, Paula, what's really striking to me is how quickly it all happened and how many images we have, how much the cameras were given access. We saw this play, you know, scene by scene throughout the day. Look, Bolivian military takes the square. We see those images of the tanks ramming into the doors of Palacio Quemado in La Paz, capital of Bolivia. And then we have that incredible video of Luis Arce, the current president, facing off against his former head of the military. I think, again, that is the defining image of today. He's basically saying, you are not welcome here. He also really relied on his supporters who came in en masse to see him and help him, defend him by the palace. This is what he had to say.
They wanted to surprise us and the Bolivian people. We responded, and the mobilization of the people also allowed us to defeat this coup attempt today. Thank you, Bolivian people.
like, why the fuck did this dude stand down so easily? You know what I mean? Like, and there was a lot of coverage on it. There's even a photo of him directly staring at the coup general. It's just like, a lot of this just feels weird. That's all I'm saying. It said post nut clarity hit him quick. I don't know. It just feels odd. It feels odd. Yeah, bro folded harder than Prigozhin.
And the Attorney General is now vowing to impose the maximum punishment on the perpetrators of the coup. But Paula, this message that this will not stand is being echoed not only in Bolivia and in the region. We're seeing reaction from Spain, from the European Union, all in condemnation of what happened today.
You know, what's so interesting here is how Evo Morales, you know, that looming figure on Bolivian politics, how he...
Don't beat around the bush. I'm not. I am telling you, honestly, I do not know. I do not know who is responsible for this. I don't know if this is CIA. I don't think it's CIA. It doesn't seem like it's CIA. But I'm not ruling anything out. Like, the options are, it's either the CIA or like interested parties that want to extract lithium, and it's so close to the United States of America in comparison to all the other places that you can get lithium from. And like, that's one option. The other option is that, like, Arce did like a self coup so that he could pack it up quickly and do it to basically he knows Evo he knows Evo is still the leader and the founder of the party, and therefore like he has to make it seem like he's in defense of Evo Morales and is like putting his own body on the line to defend Evo Morales, right? So like so then they turn around and I mean he turns around and he's like, see, I thwarted this coup. It's like theatrics. Could be the you know, that could be another reason. I mean, I don't know. There could be other parties involved as well. It could be just a psycho general. I don't know. Felt like there was an earthquake or something, but I don't know. Maybe not.
Is very clearly involved in what went on today. Can you explain?
Well, of course. Well, first of all, you mentioned that Zuniga had lost his job on Tuesday. That was after he made comments saying that basically the military would have to act if Evo Morales actually won the election that he said he planned to run for next year in the presidency. Now, I don't know the background of this and how it actually came to be, Paula. We don't know the backstage action of this, but we do know that Evo Morales was a mentor to Luis Arce for many years. He actually handpicked Arce to run for the presidency, and they have had a bit of a rift. And over the past year, since Morales said that he wants to run for presidency again, it has come off as a bit of a challenge to the very predecessor that he had picked to be in power. Meanwhile, Bolivia is going through...
That's wrong. They said they coup if he even runs in the party primary. Yeah, they were like, we hate Evo Morales. We want to coup the country. We want to coup and take over and put someone else in power because we're scared of Evo Morales. We hate Evo Morales so much. He's serving 3-minute ad breaks at the top of the hour. We hate that. And we don't have $5 to avoid seeing the ads at the top of the hour. Like, that's the type of shit that they were saying, which I thought was weird. I was like, damn, these guys are HasanAbi heads? Like, that's weird. Not knowing that Evo Morales is a big gifter in the chat, allowing chatters to no longer see the ads at the top of the hour as well, you know?
A handful of, I would say, economic challenges, both of reduced energy production, the inflation, devaluation of the local currency. And Arce is seeing...
Generals anti-Morales made comments about interfering in the elections and got fired. So he did a shitty coup as a tantrum. He only claimed it was a self-coup after he got arrested. Before that, he was still talking shit even when the coup obviously failed.
The challenge by this towering figure that is Evo Morales as not really helping the situation. They've actually come to a political rift inside their own party. It's become a quite fraught relationship with accusations flying left and right in this kind of political, personal relationship playing out in a national stage, Paula.
Now, middle of the night right now in La Paz, and we will continue to keep an eye.
Yeah, the coups are falling off.
Military forces, Bolivian President Arce addressed the protesters.
It fills us with bravery, courage to keep resisting, to keep on resisting any coup attempt. Because
how the F is Evo being blamed for this? He's not. I don't think he's being blamed for this.
Bolivia deserves its democracy, which has been won in the streets and with blood brothers and sisters.
Hours after the failed coup, Bolivian authorities arrested rogue military commander General Zuniga and his alleged co-conspirator, Navy Chief Juan Arnes.
Why didn't they arrest him immediately after? That's weird, too.
Meanwhile, President Arce has sworn in new heads of the army.
What do you think of the coup in Turkey a few years back? Was that a fake coup by Erdogan that entrenches power? No, that was definite. I think that was an American-backed, Fethullah Gulen-backed coup. For sure. Erdogan, of course, took advantage of it. I don't know how much he knew about it potentially happening, but he certainly took advantage of it. But that was very real. There is, like I've said before, there is a deep state in Turkey. That's where the deep state conversation comes from. There's a parallel government in Turkey beyond the deep state. Fethullah Gulen, the American CIA asset, quite literally had people all the way up in the court system, all the way up in the police force, all the way up in the fucking military. That shit is like, that's not a joke. For sure. Those were very real fucking, bro, they were using fighter jets, which were getting refueled in American military bases. Something to think about. It's a very odd situation. They had fucking pilots, bro. So how'd that happen? How'd that happen? How'd they get the F-16s to fire up and get refueled on American military bases? Yeah, Turkey has an actual deep state with a counter-guerrilla, not some made-up shit about turning people into femboys, yeah. Is that the Turkish dude who's currently hiding out in central Pennsylvania? Yes, in the Poconos. That is Fethullah Gülen. The risk of RC could lose if he was found out doing a self-coup far outweighs any possible benefit. This theory doesn't make much sense, and I'm not even sure what the actual material benefit would even be. Yeah, I don't know either. I'm saying that, like, that is a suspicion that people have. It just makes him look strong and, like, wins him favors with, like, the Morales defenders inside of the party base. If he's trying to become, like, the guy and thwart Evo Morales personally. Are there any cases in history where false flags have been staged by the government for reasons like this? The only thing that even comes to mind is the 1957 coup attempt in Jordan, though that wasn't even a real attempt, that wasn't coordinated with the alleged coup plotters. It just seems far-fetched until we get actual evidence, and the general may as well have cut his losses short once he got to the palace, since the general strike was already called and all. Yeah, it could be. It could be literally, it could be just like the general being fucking annoyed and just kind of crazy. I don't know. But that's why I'm saying, like, this did not feel like it was some CIA shit, especially because, like, the possible CIA backed people literally immediately said, this coup is not real. This is not our shit. This is, stand down, please. Okay.
Navy and Air Force. For more, we go to Cochabamba, Bolivia. We're joined by Catherine Lederber, director of the Andean Information Network. Catherine, welcome back to Democracy Now! Can you explain what just took place on Wednesday in Bolivia?
Thanks, Amy. Well, it's very hard to explain. You know, we had tanks filling the main plaza in front of the government palace. This all happened, a little bit after lunch at 1:30 p.m. This is after very strong statements from the top army commander, Zuniga, and this unexpected rush of tanks and of military personnel that really harked back to the 2019 coup that's still very fresh in Bolivia's memory. They forced their way into the political palace. Zuniga demanded the release of Coup, the 2019 coup political prisoners such as Fernando Camacho and Janine Áñez, made the obligatory reference to his testicles, always a part of a macho military move. And somehow the conflict within a number of hours.
I am straight up streaming the fucking debate tonight, okay? I'm streaming it. I'm streaming the debate live, okay? I'm streaming it. I'm streaming the debate.
Diffused, and Zuniga walked away, and Arce swore in new military leaders. But this is a military that's accustomed to having coups. It's a country that's had more military coups than any other Latin American country. And we see here that the Bolivian armed forces aren't firmly entrenched in democracy still, and that the consequences of 2019 and the impunity that continues has really been corrosive here.
Catherine, if you could explain why this attempted military coup now, and what was the relationship between President Arce and the military chiefs?
Well, we're at a point in time where the Arce government's under a great deal of pressure. There's an economic crisis. The state lacks a lot of resources because of a great reduction in the income from oil and gas revenue, while the state has to continue to pay for imported petroleum at increasingly higher prices. So we have empty government coffers. We have a right wing that's discontent. We have a crisis with the Bolivian Constitutional Court extending its own mandate illegally, and that of the Supreme Court, and blocking judicial elections that are mandated by the Bolivian Constitution. You have the carryover from the 2019 coup, and really after that coup, although some military officers have been prosecuted and jailed, there hasn't been any restructuring of the armed forces. There hasn't been a fundamental change in vision. And I think that Arce, perhaps with the best intents, does not understand security issues very well. Remember that he was Morales' finance minister, and I don't think he's been particularly strategic in the choices that he's made for military commanders. And so you have an institution that appears to be not firmly under democratic control, a government that is feeling pressured and cornered. And at the same time, there's an intense conflict within the MAS party, a strong divide between Arce and...
Big L. Not cleaning house is a big L, okay? If a fucking right-wing reactionary coup occurs, you got to fucking clean house, okay? Here's a HasanAbi guarantee. All right? You got to clean house. You can't do that. You kidding me? Nope. No ands, ifs, or buts. You got to do that. You got to do that shit. 100%.
And his former boss, three-time President Evo Morales, that is also leading to greater uncertainty here in Bolivia.
Can you talk about what the general was alleging, that this was an auto golpe, right? Self-coup, that he was carrying out the wishes of Arce. How outrageous or reasonable is this?
Well, Amy, it's impossible to...
Would you execute Zuniga? No. No, you don't have to execute him. Maybe a little bit of re-education. You know? Maybe a little bit of re-education. Make him work a little bit, you know what I mean? At a labor camp, that sort of thing. No exile. I don't like exile. I think exile is shitty. Then they always go to America. Fuck that. No, send him to the countryside. They need to build roads. You know? No, I hate exile. I think exile is bullshit. Make them do community service. Like, what are you talking about? No, you got to execute them or they try again. True and on rule. No. Listen, as much as I respect Brace, successful re-education has occurred in Maoist China. I'm currently testing his Maoism. I don't think he's sufficiently Maoist. Yeah, the Puyi method. Exactly.
To say, it's a quite confusing situation. I've never actually seen a coup attempt that began at 1:30 and ended at the end of the Bolivian workday promptly at 6:30. You know, Zuniga had made very strong threats about arresting Evo Morales, Arce's now political opponent.
I think the Belden program is revisionist. Yes, it's not sufficiently Maoist. That's all I'm going to say. If the Belden program believes in exile, then I'll say it. I'll be brave enough to say it. It's revisionist.
And it wasn't clear whether or not he had been fired. But no one saw this coming particularly. You know, suspicions arise because Zuniga, who was never a stellar officer.
Exile sucks, dude. It doesn't fucking work. You don't want these look at Pinochet, for example. Like, Pinochet literally escaped prosecution. Like, are you fucking kidding me? No, I don't think you should be able to go live in like Florida or England, okay? I don't think that is like appropriate. And there's obvious examples of like exile not working with Napoleon. You need like, you know, you need rehabilitation. I'll use a liberal term for it. Okay? Look at the Dalai Lama. You literally have two examples coming out of China. Yeah, one example of successful rehabilitation, one example of exile not working.
Was handpicked for promotion to general and then army commander by Arce. They play basketball together. They have a close personal rapport, and he was perceived to be Arce's strongest ally within the Bolivian military. So it's not clear whether things soured or what exactly happened. But it was interesting because generally in a situation like this, bullets are fired to impede the military from coming into the state house. That didn't happen in this particular.
Yeah, the Sino-Soviet split has nothing on the Hasan Belden split. the Hasan Bray split, the Piker Belden split. Yeah, Cuba exiled in Florida. Yeah, that's another L. Okay. You can't just like give up on your reactionaries. You can't just be like, yeah, make him someone else's problem, especially when that someone else is America. Okay, fuck no, no shot, dude. This is in-house problems. Okay, we're dealing with this shit in-house.
Case, and Zuniga was not arrested at the time. He walked away from the main plaza or drove.
Yeah, that's also weird as fuck, by the way. That's the other thing that I was like, this motherfucker, they let him go? They let him go, and he wasn't on the first flight out of Bolivia on a military plane directly to Florida? Are you kidding me? And you're going to tell me this was a CIA-backed coup? It's also weird that he just like, it's also weird that they just like let him walk out. Hey, sorry. Okay, let's let bygones be bygones. Like what? What do you mean?
Away and was only arrested later that evening. So it's a very bizarre framework for a coup attempt. Zuniga's affirmations are problematic. I think we have to put them in the context of his position, but it's a very unusual form of coup attempt, and it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. There were threats of violence, but no actual violence. It'll be interesting to see in the coming days how this evolves.
You said earlier, Catherine, that President Arce was not so strategic in his choices of military chiefs. What is your assessment now of the people he's appointed?
I think it remains.
These plans are always built with deniability. If it worked, the U.S. would be back in the new government. This guy jumped the gun and they fucking flubbed it. Of course, the U.S. wouldn't claim it. What do you mean? They would still, the State Department would make statements like, we are very concerned with what's going on in Bolivia because the people demand democracy or some shit, though, even if it failed. Like, the State Department would come out and be like, it's very obvious that, like, there is discontent among the Bolivian population given Evo Morales' unconstitutional and undemocratic fourth-term presidential run. And the people of Bolivia spoke on this day. Like some shit like that, you know what I mean? They wouldn't just be like, yeah, this was a L, lol.
To be seen, I haven't been able to look into their particular military career, but you have a defense minister who was a Morales minister, but in another area. I don't see that the Arce administration is strong.
By the way, most of the things I've mentioned about like how the CIA attempts successful and unsuccessful coups is like directly seen with Juan Guaido. Juan Guaido literally came to America, and instead of like fucking campaigning in Venezuela, building a fucking solid base of support for himself in a time when there's so much fucking discontent and volatility as a consequence of like the dire economic circumstances that the Venezuelan population is facing, he fucking came to America and was like, you know what the Venezuelan people want? Reaffirming our commitment to Israel and also privatizing our oil industry. And it's like, okay, dude, like, yeah, sure. Definitely. That's what the people were yearning for. You know what I mean?
Strong suit is security issues or reform of the security forces. And I think there dramatically needs to be an intense, profound reform of both institutions that received payment in 2019 to disobey Morales and to support to a right-wing uprising. So we've had these inherited long-term problems that aren't being addressed. We're seeing cycles of coups throughout Bolivia's history, or cycles of military commanders that make assertions, may be fired, may be arrested, may be imprisoned, but we don't see a profound change within the institution itself. And I think that's highly problematic. And I think that that's probably an issue in most Latin American countries.
So presidents across the political spectrum in Latin America condemned this attempted coup. Can you talk more about the role of the former president, Evo Morales, that he plays in the current politics of Bolivia, Catherine?
Yes, I think that the support from Latin American countries was crucial and it was rapid. I think it's important to highlight that a very bland, watered-down message came from the Biden administration. And of course, we're beginning to become used to that. Morales handpicked Arce, who was elected by an overwhelming majority in the 2020 elections after the violence, the incompetence, and the corruption of the interim Áñez government that was illegally put in by the military with the support of the Trump administration. But as Arce's administration has progressed, Morales has become an outspoken critic for a number of reasons. The perception, the MAS party was originally considered a coalition of grassroots organizations, social movements, unions that had direct input with the executive. And the perception from the Morales administration is that most of the Arce ministers are upper middle class men that are personal allies of Arce, but don't necessarily represent social movements. And in fact, when there have been protests about different ministers and requests from grassroots organizations that those ministers have been changed, Arce has maintained them in.
That's a zesty flag. Bolivian flag is sick. I also love the hats. It's awesome.
Power. So there's one key issue there. There's another key issue about the stigmatization of the Chapari coca growing zone by the Arce administration, tagging it again as the center of drug trafficking, as the U.S., the DEA.
Look at those, dude. Look at those fucking hats, dude. They're so
and
dope.
Far-right governments have, that has promoted a lot of friction.
I gotta pee.
Criticisms from Morales on the way that the Arce government has dealt with oil and gas administration, economic administration, the disappearance of dollars in the Bolivian economy, and fuel shortages that have affected the government. So there's been an impasse between the two sides of the MAS government that other progressive governments around the continent and the Grupo de Puebla have worked very, very hard to try to overcome. And this divide has become increasingly greater. It's something that's very worrisome as we come to the 2025 elections and the suggestion that the right may well come into power.
And so Morales' response to this coup and where you think it goes?
Well, it's interesting that Morales' response was one of the first responses. He was the first person or one of the few people originally to denounce a troop movement, an unexplained movement of troops in La Paz that was worrisome. And he also denounced a coup attempt, and he denounced it vigorously. And, and then Arce denounced the same thing. And so seeing the troop movement, seeing the tanks in the plaza, seeing the soldiers filing in, it was very, very worrisome. And Morales expressed those sentiments even before Arce. So I think that at that point in time, it's the first time they've agreed on anything in months.
And Catherine, before we end, if you could say, you hinted at this earlier in one of your responses, if you could explain first of all, how much support President Arce still has among people, and what the both class and physical divides are, the highlands versus the lowlands, poor versus rich, in terms of support for President Arce, and perhaps also some who support the military.
Well, I would say that there's very little popular support for the military in Bolivia. I mean, they poll very badly. They poll even worse after coup attempts. The same is true for the Bolivian police force. This was something that I don't perceive had any popular backing. The Bolivian citizenry do not want to return to violence.
Yeah, they need to send Aisho Speed out there as the American cultural envoy and fix this shit up, okay? He's gonna go link up with. He's gonna go first link up with Evo, and then he's gonna link up with Arce, and then he's gonna unite the Mas party.
Human rights violations and states of siege. But Arce is facing a lot of difficulty, also about the not calling out or denouncing the High Court's self-extension of their mandate, something that's completely illegal, and then having the Constitutional Court rule in favor of Arce is something that's been a great problem signaled by the other side of Mas, by justice experts, and even by the opposition. So, it's a bit, Arce is in a very delicate position. He perhaps has received a respite from the pressure for 6 weeks, perhaps, with the relief of the population that democracy has been maintained. But it's a fragile democracy. And I think that in the long run, this incident will bolster Arce in the short term, but demonstrates a vulnerability that we should all be concerned about in the long run.
Catherine Lederber, we want to thank you so much for being with us, director of the Andean.
Who would Bolivia prefer lead? Probably a lot of Latin American countries are susceptible to strongmen, like charismatic strongmen. It is a little bit of a weakness in terms of like long-term continuation of any kind of ideological project. This happened with Chavez in Venezuela as well. I would assume that, I mean, I don't actually know. I genuinely know. I genuinely don't know. Sorry. But I suspect it's probably Evo Morales, but machismo trumps a lot of thinking in Latin America. Yeah. I mean, but it's not just like, it's not machismo, but like, it's not just strongmen in the sense that like, in the way that you understand, like a Vladimir Putin type. I mean, like a charismatic leader, and Evo certainly is. So I think that, that is, I mean, I don't know. A lot of these guys personally end up not cultivating like a decent continuation plan as a consequence of like controlling, as a consequence of like genuine fears of infiltration. And beyond that, I think like, they just kind of get invested and want to maintain their grip on power. And I think that actually is a weakness in general.